Hi, my name is Laura Tarnosky, and my family and I have been parishioners at St. Pius for 20 plus years. My husband Scott and I have 4 kids, Grace, Emma, Libby, and Ben. We live in Crofton. When Father Mike asked me to write a Lenten reflection about how my faith helped me to get through a difficult time in my life, I had to laugh. I work at Elizabeth Seton High School, where I work in campus ministry. I plan service projects and I assist with retreats and liturgies. And in this work role, I'm the one that often asks students to give reflections for retreats. Now, after receiving Father Mike's email, I was on the other end of that request. And I automatically had this same response that many of my students have. I don't have anything sensational that people want to listen to. I don't have a story with a compelling plot that leads to a powerful and uplifting message. Like my students, I was assuming that only those that have had a powerful story of suffering or loss, where they have been victorious in the finale, can write such a talk or a reflection. Sometimes it's helpful to have our roles reversed and to see a situation from a different perspective. So I said yes to Father Mike, and here I am. So I thought about various aspects of my life, and I prayed for some inspiration, and I hopped around through a few topics. And I ultimately decided to focus on what I'm dealing with in my life right now. And I'm lucky to say that it's not a tragedy, but rather a transition that has me struggling. I'd like to tell you about being a mom. Long before Scott and I were married, I wanted to have many children. And I think the number that I latched onto was 10. We ended up with 4, and that turned out to be a great number for us. From day one, I loved being a mom. I loved being pregnant, I loved having babies, I loved having toddlers and grade schoolers, and I even loved having teenagers. Before I was married and birthing babies, I was an adoption social worker. I worked with women who were considering placing a child for adoption, and later I worked with singles and couples who were hoping to have a child. I loved my work, and I also loved that when I began to have children, I could do my job during the evenings and on weekends and be able to stay home with my young children. As my children moved through their school years, I felt lucky to transition to a job at Seton, where I could have a school schedule, just like my kids, and again be able to be home when they were home. I have loved working at the same school that my 3 daughters have attended. It has been a tremendous joy to see them in the halls and to have them bring their friends and say hello, come in and have lunch. I'm a lucky woman, and I love being a mom. My kids are doing everything that I hoped that they would do. And now they're growing up. And therein lies both my joy and my struggle. My kids are growing up and they're ready to fly the nest. My oldest daughter is graduating from college in the spring and becoming more and more independent. I'm struggling with this a lot more than I thought I would. She's a busy college senior who works hard in school. She works at an internship 3 days a week, and she spends time with her friends. She's been traveling with her friends during Christmas break and spring break, and now has plans to travel during summer break. We don't see her as often as we used to, and her plans involve her friends more than her family members. And I want to be able to say to her, go and see the world, meet new people, try exotic foods, discover fascinating cultures. Instead, I say, how come we haven't seen you lately? I want to say, I'm so incredibly proud of your stellar grades, your upcoming graduation, the fact that you're going to be a mechanical engineer. But all that comes out is, so did you go to church this week? Or have you called your grandmother lately? I find myself speaking to her with anger, bitterness, and plenty of good old guilt. I can't seem to help it, and I definitely don't think this is the best version of myself that God calls me to be. I feel disappointed in myself, and I say I'm going to be better about this the next time, but the truth is I haven't improved much. I'm trying to figure out how I can take joy in this transition time of their lives and in my life, and somehow come out of it with a loving relationship with my children. I've been thinking recently about how my faith asks that I look at this, and I instantly think of Mary. I recently read Mary's Way of the Cross, a version of the Stations of the Cross as told from Mary's perspective. And it caused me to think about Mary, the perfect model of saying yes to God's plan. Mary, who birthed her beautiful baby and then released him to the world, where she ultimately watched him be put to death. I can't picture Mary using guilt or ugliness in her relationship with Jesus. Her example is one of humility, selflessness, and pure love. I know that this will be an ongoing struggle as my kids grow up and leave the nest. And I pray that I can gracefully and joyfully let them go, but I will not be perfect. I think again about the relationship between Mary and Jesus, especially during Lent when we consider the pain of Jesus' crucifixion and death. I read an article recently which considered Jesus' words to Mary from the cross. "Woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother." The article described these words as a reminder of community, of our interconnectedness, as if Jesus was making the suggestion to Mary and the disciple John that in their grief, they take care of one another. I think community is one of God's greatest gifts to us, and in this is the lesson to myself. My kids are growing up, and they don't need me as much as they used to. They have worthwhile and valuable things that keep them busy and away from home. At the same time, God has blessed me with community to strengthen and lift me up when I'm feeling lonely or sad. I have a great husband who listens to me and provides me with balance. I have extended family, I have work friends, exercise friends, neighbors, and more. God has given me what I need to transition along with my kids, and I am not alone. God has also given me the desire to strengthen my relationship with him. I joined my first St. Pius small group this Lent, and I am enjoying sharing my faith with my new friends. I think this is another example of God's gift of community. I'm reading Resisting Happiness, and its theme of understanding that God wants me to be happy, wants all of us to be happy, to be the person that he created us to be, is a powerful one. And I appreciate the very practical suggestions that the book makes. Praying for 10 minutes a day, attending daily Mass, seeking reconciliation, and offering up our regular activities as a prayer for others. And so, as my kids get older and more independent, I pray that I will learn to appreciate all of these gifts that God has given me. My husband, my friends, my church, and even my kids, who are both rotten and wonderful. I pray that I will always have the knowledge of God's active presence in my life, getting me through the tough times and the transitions, and realizing that he is always guiding me to a new season of possibilities.